The conquest of the land of Israel in the book of Joshua and our relationship with the indigenous population, the Canaanites, is a very sensitive and tricky topic. God tells Joshua to tell the Jewish people to go in and give these Canaanites one of two choices. First, we go to them and say, God owns the whole world. He gives the land of Israel to the Jewish people. You are custodially staying here. Now we're back. You have two choices. You can leave, but if you stay, you wipe them out. That's a very, very heavy thing. Wipe them out. Genocidal war against another people? I've had people say to me, come on, look, what's the difference between that and with Hitler? It's horrible. Well, first of all, I say a few things as a historian. Number one is the Jews are the only people in the world that have to be told to wipe out other people. See, today we have this idea of correct behavior in warfare. And we should appreciate, by the way, that the notion of Geneva Conventions and non-combatants is a byproduct of Judeo-Christian ethics. Okay? If not for the Jews, no one would even be asking that question. In the ancient world, the only people that were ever spared in battle, no matter who they were, women, children, were people whose lives had value. Rape, slavery, whatever you wanted them for. But that also brings us to a much, much deeper concept we have to understand, which is a hard one. We Jews are the only people in the world that have to be told to wipe someone out. And we don't like doing it. And you see in the book of Joshua, the Jewish people don't do it. It's very clear from the narrative in Joshua, when the Canaanites stop attacking us, we stop attacking them, and we're faulted for it. Misplaced mercy. But there's a very heavy concept that the Torah is bringing down here, which is that God cannot tell you to do something that is immoral, that is wrong, that is unjust, or that is evil. Now, when I say God cannot tell you, I'm not talking about today. Today, no one has direct connection with God. We don't have prophets. It's a different reality. But going back thousands of years ago, when people had an open line of communication with the infinite, and God tells you to do something, you do it. Now, you might not want to do it. It might be uncomfortable. But one of the great fatal flaws of the Jewish people is that we try and be more merciful than God himself. And you cannot do that. You can't be more merciful than God. If God says to do it, okay, it makes me uncomfortable. And there's many aspects of biblical narrative that we come across that we would question because we have a different perspective than people had thousands of years ago. But we have to appreciate that it was a different reality. There were different lines of communication. The responsibility was greater. Very, very heavy, the Bible. I always say God plays hardball. It's tough stuff. But if you don't listen and you try and be more merciful than God, and we see this even until today. The rabbis say, as someone who is merciful to the wicked will end up being wicked to the merciful. Misplaced mercy will allow someone who should be punished not to be punished, and ultimately that person will do more damage. So we see in the Bible that we stop fighting the Canaanites when they stop fighting us. We leave them amongst us. They live amongst us for centuries. And ultimately, we are impacted by their negative character traits because the Canaanites are people who are particularly evil and particularly distant from God and absolute morality, which is why God tells us to get them out of there. And because we didn't listen and tried to second guess God, we end up eventually being corrupted by their ideas. And ultimately, that Canaanite influence, that foreign influence, will lead the Jewish people down a very dangerous and destructive path, which will ultimately lead to exile.